This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. It is Wednesday, June 18th. I want to begin this half hour in the Middle East, where the U.S. military may join Israel's strikes against Iran's nuclear program. And the main target would be Iran's key enrichment plant. President Donald Trump is reportedly considering that option, and he's also called for Iran's unconditional surrender. But Iran's supreme leader said the battle begins. Chris Mitchell brings us the story now from Jerusalem.
The president met with his national security team to discuss Iran and spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And two Israeli officials told Axios Netanyahu and the Israeli defense establishment believe Trump will likely get involved in the war in the days ahead. The U.S. is closing its embassy in Jerusalem until Friday. The main target remaining is the Fordo nuclear facility.
24 kilometers northeast of Qum is the Fordo fuel enrichment plant. The fuel being uranium with the capacity to be enriched to weapons-grade levels of 90%.
The Alma Research and Education Center released this video of Fordo built underneath a mountain that may be out of reach of Israeli munitions. It's why many are looking to the U.S. and its massive bunker-busting bombs.
What we're talking about is a specific American weapon, which is 30,000-pound precision-guided bomb, and it can only be carried by the B-2 stealth bomber right now, because that's the only plane that's configured to carry such a weapon.
On Truth Social, President Trump warned Ayatollah Khamenei, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but he is safe there. We are not going to take him out, kill, at least for now." But he warned, our patience is running thin. After the president's message, Khamenei wrote on X, "In the name of Haider, the battle begins. Ali returns to Khaybar with his Zulfikar," referring to Islam's first Imam Ali, who won the Battle of Khaybar with the sword Zulfikar. While visiting the site of an Iranian attack on a civilian neighborhood, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, warned Khamenei not to end up like Saddam Hussein, who was ultimately executed.
If you continue to commit acts of war and launch missiles at the civilian population in Israel, your fate will be exactly like that of the dictator in the neighboring country to Iran, whose end is well known.
On Tuesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told an Israeli channel history is being made.
We're at a historic turning point, and everyone is slowly turning to realize it. Trump will do what's right for America. I won't interfere with his considerations. After victory over Iran, a new Middle East will emerge.
Since the beginning of the war, Iran has fired fewer missiles every day. The IDF says it's destroyed about 40% of Iran's ballistic missile launchers.
Thanks to our strikes, the Iranian forces were pushed back to central Iran. Now they are making efforts to fire from the Isfahan area. They have retreated from western Iran, but we are pursuing them.
On Tuesday, the son of the late Shah, Reza Pahlavi, considered a leading candidate to lead Iran if the regime falls, delivered a message to the Iranian people.
The regime's apparatus of repression is falling apart. All that is needed is popular uprising to end this nightmare once and for all. Now is the time to resist. Now is the time to reclaim Iran.
Last year, CBN News' George Thomas sat down with Pahlavi for a one-on-one interview.
He has been positioning himself, Chris, for quite some time as the sort of face of the opposition outside of Iran, and his calls for the removal of the regime have only gotten louder since October 7th. He has joined, in essence, arms with Israel, continuing to, call for them to eliminate the various tentacles of this huge octopus, with the head being the Islamic regime in Iran.
And an important message of encouragement for the president from U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. He wrote a private text message to the president, which Trump posted on Truth Social. It read in part, "Mr. President, God spared you in Butler, PA, to be the most consequential president in a century. Maybe ever. You have many voices speaking to you, sir, but there is only one voice that matters, his voice. I believe you will hear from heaven, and that voice is far more important than mine or anyone else's. You did not seek this moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you.
And Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem with more. So, Chris, why is this enrichment facility so vital?
Well, it is vital, Ephraim, and it's so because it's deep underground. It's 80 to 90 meters of rock, about 300 feet deep. There is a reason why Iranian built it that way, so it would be so hard to destroy. It's capable of enriching uranium to 60% purity, just one step away from 90% military grade, and it can do that as well. These are Iran's most advanced centrifuges. They're faster and more efficient than the others, and they started enriching there in Fordo in about 2019. That was a major breach of what was then the 2015 JCPOA agreement. And so Fordo, it's key to eliminate. Otherwise, Iran's nuclear program literally is still operational. So that's why they need that 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb, this massive ordnance penetrator, or MOP. I actually just did hear that maybe Israel will try to drop a bunker-busting bomb, a smaller bomb, literally right in the air duct of Fordo. That's sort of reminiscent of what happened in Star Wars and the Death Star. But this is really, Fordo is key for the next step to eliminate Iran's nuclear program.
Chris, what are some Orthodox Jews and Christians saying about Thursday?
This is fascinating, Ephraim. 23 Sivan, that's Thursday. Tomorrow was when in the book of Esther, the decree of Haman was reversed. You know, in the book of Esther, the wicked Haman issued a decree to annihilate the Jews in Persia. But it was through Esther and Mordecai the decree was reversed. Here's the verse from the book of Esther. It says, so the king's scribes were called at that time in the third month, the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded. And this is known as a day of divine reversal, when the edict of death was met and a new decree of hope and deliverance was issued. And so could Thursday, tomorrow, be the day when the decrees of Iran and the Ayatollah Khamenei are reversed, just like it was back in the book of Esther, when Haman wanted to kill Mordecai and all the Jews, and Khamenei wants to kill and destroy the Israel and the Jewish people. So big things may be happening Thursday.
We'll be watching. Let's talk about Haidar right now. Why is that important?
Well, Haidar is a pivotal battle that was in 628 between the Muslims led by Muhammad and the Jewish tribes of Khaybar. It was an oasis north of Medina. That was a decisive victory by Muhammad. And his cousin and his son-in-law, Ali, was given the banner to lead the final charge. He ripped open the gates of the main fortress. So the name Haidar has been associated for Muslims with heroic bravery in battle. It shows that Khamenei and the regime really see this battle through an Islamic lens, because this battle continues to echo and reverberate in all their religious rhetoric and symbolism. So that's why for Khamenei and many Muslims, Haidar is such an important symbol.
If people would like to help the people of Israel, how can they do that? Where can they go?
Well, I know a lot of people are wondering how they can help practically, and they can go to cbnisrael.org. We were there on the ground on Sunday at Bat Yam, the scene of a direct hit of an Iranian missile. And so they're helping evacuate people that were left homeless because of that missile. They're providing food and lodging. They're actually doing repairs of some of the bomb shelters. And they're also providing a hotline for trauma counseling that Israelis can go to get help, psychological help and emotional help. And so if people want to help, again, they can go to cbnisrael.org, and they're helping people here on the ground in Israel during this war.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insights. Looking forward to hearing from you in the days ahead. Back here at home, there's a new report. Illegal immigration on the southern border has dropped dramatically, and a New York City official was arrested and released for linking arms with a man detained by ICE. Adele Hurd is on this story.
Border Patrol agents did not release a single migrant into the U.S. last month, according to Customs and Border Protection. It's a huge drop compared to May of last year, when the Biden administration allowed 62,000 illegals to enter the country. after President Trump indicated last week that arrests of illegals would cease at farms, restaurants, and hotels because of concerns it will hurt the economy.
We can't do that to our farmers, and leisure too, hotels.
The administration reversed course, resuming the arrest. A Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said these operations target illegal employment networks that undermine American workers. Trump was asked about the turnaround yesterday.
We're going to look everywhere, but I think the biggest problem is the inner cities. We're looking everywhere.
Meanwhile, there was a dramatic confrontation over immigration enforcement in New York. Agents arrested New York City Comptroller and mayoral candidate Brad Lander after he linked arms with a man ICE was trying to arrest.
Where is it?
Lander was later released without charges.
ICE said you assaulted an officer.
I mean, you guys all saw it on video, so you know exactly what happened. I certainly did not assault an officer.
Some in the New York media questioned whether it was an election campaign stunt. And in Washington, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was taken to a D.C. hospital by ambulance Tuesday. A DHS spokesperson said it was an allergic reaction. The spokesperson said Noem was transported to the hospital out of an abundance of caution and is alert and recovering. Noem visited a biological hazard lab the day before she was rushed to the hospital, but officials say the two events are not linked. Border Patrol calls the reduction of border crossings historic, saying border encounters last month were the lowest since 1960, and calling it the fastest improvement in American border security of all time. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Coming up, there are reports thousands of children in Ukraine have been stolen by Russians and taken from their homeland. You're going to see what is being done to save them. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Attempts to broker a peace between Russia and Ukraine have yielded little results. One major issue is the fate of Ukrainian children forcibly deported to Russia since the beginning of the war. While the Russians have admitted to taking hundreds of children, Ukraine says the number is closer to 20,000. John Jessup reports.
Following an attack on Kherson, this Ukrainian, injured by shrapnel, picks through the pieces of his shattered home. Yet, some losses in this conflict are irreplaceable.
Some of the youngest victims of that war, victims stolen from their homes.
Russia is taking Ukrainian kids from their parents in many cases, trying to turn them into Russian kids, which they call a humanitarian gesture.
Since the 2022 invasion, thousands of kidnapped children have become obscure casualties of war.
Да, вот на ухе сережка, да, это он. Как всегда обиженные.
Taken from their homes and forced to create new lives in a foreign place.
We were taken to Russia whether we want to go or not. We were just sent there against our will.
Ksenia Kolden's nightmare began when Russia destroyed her northeastern border town. After spending years together in foster care, war separated Ksenia from her younger brother, Sergei. Russian troops sending Ksenia to a technical school and Sergei to a camp and ultimately a Russian foster family. After being expelled for failing to adopt what she calls Russian propaganda, Ksenia planned a daring escape to Ukraine, then ran into trouble trying to convince her brother.
He told me that I do not want to return back. I want to stay in Russia because nobody needs me in Ukraine. There is war there and there is a lot of Nazis there.
After being brainwashed, they don't want to communicate. They're really afraid because through Russian propaganda, they believe that Nazi will kill them if they will come back.
Mykola Kuleba runs a rescue operation for these stolen kids called Save Ukraine. He says Russia's playbook aims to erase the kids' identity and replace it with Russian ideology and fear, all with one goal.
It's the main intention, main strategy of Russia to brainwash our children and to recruit them to Russian army.
According to Ukraine's official count, 20,000 children have been forcibly deported in the last 3 years of war, though that figure does not include Ukrainian kids taken since Russia annexed Crimea in 2014. Kuleba contends many end up fighting against their homeland.
Thousands of young adults who've been Ukrainian school children 10 years ago, now killed in battlefields or sitting in Ukrainian prisons as captured soldiers.
This alleged war crime prompted the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants for Vladimir Putin and a top Russian deputy. Kuleba sees Putin of being guilty of far worse.
I'm sure that in 10, 20 years, whole the world will prove and will wake up that, oh, it was genocide.
So far, Save Ukraine has returned with more than 600 children after dangerous rescue missions across Russia and occupied territories. The team also provides counseling and reintegration services for kids and families displaced by war. Kuleba credits his call as a child advocate to American missionaries who introduced him to the gospel after the fall of the Soviet Union.
I ask God every day, God, what can I do? How I can serve you? It was so clear from Jesus that I'm sending you to save these kids and to change their lives. We are saving our country through saving children.
That calling brought Ksenia to Kuleba's team for help and her brother to freedom back in Ukraine.
You're very happy, and I'm happy too, because we together in Ukraine at home.
She's now sharing her journey, even traveling to the United States to raise awareness.
Now I have a mission, a very important mission. I'm the voice of thousands of children and orphans who were kidnapped by Russia. My story is a clear example of how Russia abducts Ukrainian children and turns them into Russians.
A story she's bravely telling so that other stolen kids will not be forgotten. John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. The live-action remake of How to Train Your Dragon was a box office hit opening weekend, raking in more than $83 million, and the numbers are still rising. I sat down with the mastermind behind the project, Denis Debois. He is the writer and the director.
Okay, action. I decided to revisit How to Train Your Dragon because it felt like an amazing opportunity.
Fans thought we were done. Why revisit this story in this way?
I place that credit and blame on Universal Studios.
Okay.
Toothless, no! He's a friend! You all need to see this. I'm not one of them.
They've been wonderful about it, but they did contact me nearly 3 years ago and say we're kicking the tires on this idea. It's such a beloved franchise,
Yeah.
and we think that live action could really benefit it. And I said, if you're thinking of doing it, then I want in, because I know where the heart is. I know these characters. I know this story, and I want to protect it. You know, I want to make sure that it lives up to its potential without losing its heart.
What were the challenges moving from animation to live action with dragons?
It's okay. I won't hurt you.
Well, certainly making the dragons feel photoreal was going to be tricky, because the dragons in the animated movies are quite stylized and exaggerated. And so we really leaned into, as we redesigned them, we leaned into the animal references that inspired them. Crocodiles, or in one case, like a tropical bird, or a walrus in this case, or a black panther in the case of Toothless. And then tried to retain what people would recognize from the animated movies in terms of silhouette and coloring and personality and traits, but also make them feel like they could walk around with any dinosaur in Jurassic Park and you would believe it. They had to be that real.
That said, was there one or two scenes you were looking forward to recreating now?
Yes, for me, I think one of the scenes I was looking forward to recreating was Hiccup's graduation day in the arena, with all of the populace of Burke gathered, his father giving his speech about how proud he is of his kid, and then having it all unravel. to the point that Toothless has to break in there and rescue him, because it's like a movie within a movie.
Yeah.
And I knew that live action could dial up all the relationships in there and make it more intense. And the choreography of the stunts, all of it was going to be kind of a microcosm of our ambitions for the movie.
How do you approach casting?
Well, casting's really interesting. I mean, we had a wonderful casting director named Lucy Bevan, and she pulled together really amazing combinations of talented young actors who could kind of invent their own chemistry in the room. And so it became sort of a kind of testing, just trial and error, and finding our way toward those characters that best embodied the spirit of the character without necessarily having to look like their animated counterparts. I had already invented a mythology for the movie that would allow for faces of different colors and cultures to come together, sort of suggesting that dragons have been a problem everywhere. And so Vikings gathered the best dragon fighting warriors from everywhere, every region, and brought them to this island with the purpose of finding one of the nests. So yeah, it was kind of a process of elimination, just sort of finding those actors that really captured who the character was at their core. When it comes to Nico and Mason, these two just sort of came alive in the room, and suddenly I felt that they both embodied the core character of Hiccup and Astrid and how they played off of one another. Gerard Butler is stoic. He is the co-creator of the role. To watch him step right out of the animated movie, and here he is in front of you, Stoic the Vast, it's such a treat to watch.
Does this work without Gerard?
Well, Gerard was a no-brainer from the start, because I thought if we're going to do it, we have to have Gerard. The challenging thing there was that he wasn't available. He had back-to-back projects. And it was actually the actors' strike of 2023 that made a couple of those projects shift, and it opened up a gap where Jerry could come in and play the character. But it is hard to imagine anyone else in that role.
Indeed. How to Train Your Dragon is in theaters nationwide right now. Stay with us. Your Wednesday Word is coming up next. Welcome back. I want to leave you with this word. God loves you at your lowest. When others walk away, He is running toward you. He's chosen you, and He's chasing after you daily. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye and God bless.